Yo, what's up, everybody? This is your boy. This is Avery, and I'm here with another episode of the Melologic Vlogcast, where melanated people think logically. And before I get into the article we have today, I want to let you know what Melologic is. Melologic is an app that gives Black people a single source of skin health information from trusted professionals who participating users will be able to donate to the Black Skin Health AI dataset, which will provide them with the opportunity to submit a photo of any skin issue they may have and receive instantaneous feedback as to what it could be and suggestions on how they should treat it. Now, this new public data set will provide AI-fueled dermatology research and pre-diagnoses. Essentially, Melologic is an online resource that gives, that combines medical art, advice, and AI to empower Black people to be our own health advocates. Take care of your skin, take care of yourself, Melologic. Now, the article that I have for you today is entitled, "The Lack of Representation in Dermatology Can Be Deadly for People of Color." Now, I got this article in my Google Alerts. It was written by Elle Magazine or Elle.com, which is a well-known women-centered magazine. And these days, it's been all the rage to talk about skin of color, as they say. So I want to get into this article because this article is touching on an issue that a lot of Black people have experienced throughout time, and that is the neglect of the medical industry and also incorrect notions of our own immortality, so to speak, and how the lack of education, the lack of awareness from both the healthcare industry and also for us as a community can lead to dire consequences. So let's get into it. All right. So this says the lack of representation in dermatology can be deadly for people of color. And the byline here is skin cancer can be more difficult to diagnose in skin of color, but new initiatives are increasing representation in dermatology. Now, and this was written by Jessica Chia, it looks like. This was published May 11th, 2021. Now, I mentioned before my view on this term skin of color. There's no such thing as a skin of color because there's no such thing as a people of color. You have different kinds of people from different areas in the world who have different genetic compositions that are both lineal and environmental, meaning that it runs in their family and it's also in their skin of their body is also impacted by the environment in which that they live in. So this term skin of color is really a generic term to say non-white skin. But again, there is no one monolithic people of color. Therefore, there is no one monolithic skin of color. And it's very important to understand this difference because you have whole companies that are trying to pretend that they're truly invested in taking care of your Black skin. And I'm here to tell you that you have to really question people's motives when they don't directly target you specifically, but they say stuff like, oh, skin of color, people of color, so on and so forth, because that can mean anything. All it means is non-white. Dogs are non-white, so you have to be very clear as to who your target is if you're going to hit it. So anyway, I like that picture, by the way. It's pretty cool. All right, so we got Elia J. Smith, a 40-year-old nurse practitioner in Dallas. Never suspected she'd be confronted with a life-threatening health concern in her 30s. She was a medical professional. She ate well, worked out regularly. Sure, she spent a lot of time basking in the sun while wearing low SPF tanning oils, but as a black woman, she wasn't worried about sun protection. You know, they could have said black person, but it's fine, black woman. Because neither men nor it can affect men and women. Our skin is very similar. Although a woman's skin is a little bit more delicate than a man's skin, it can bruise easier. Nevertheless, she wasn't worried about sun protection. Several years earlier, a friend of hers who worked as a physician's assistant in a dermatology practice flagged a mole on her thigh during a day at the spa, but Smith brushed it off as a birthmark. All right, Smith and her daughter Aria. Fast forward to January 2021. Smith, now the mother of a young child, is lying on a plastic surgeon's table with a gaping hole in her leg. They had to remove a piece of tissue that was 8.5 centimeters wide and 4 centimeters deep out of my thigh, Smith says. She was diagnosed with skin cancer, malignant melanoma, last December. I was floored. I asked my dermatologist how rare this is, especially in African Americans. Smith's surprise isn't entirely unfounded. The likelihood of women of color getting skin cancer is comparatively low. Okay, well, let me stop here. This whole thing about melanoma and skin cancer being rare, I challenge these statements. It even says it here, skin cancer is comparatively low. The question is compared to who? Compared to who? You can only determine something's low if you compare it to something else, and then you do the numbers, say, okay, well, one is higher than the other. But if you don't have anything to compare it to, it's not necessarily low or high. It happens. And so what I'm here saying is that the fact that black people do not get diagnosed with melanoma as often as white people does not mean that it's not a problem that is worthy of being addressed. And historically, that is the very excuse that has been used to neglect black people from all kinds of different investments and resources to be made available to them or to us. Because companies, institutions, governments, venture capitalists all run these numbers and they run this game saying, well, it's not enough black people. It's not enough black people that get this or get that or get the other. It's not, they don't get melanoma as much. Well, how the hell do you know? Why would you say something like that? Is one person getting melanoma too little to pay attention to address, to invest in? How many people does it have to be? 10, 100, 1,000, 40 million? How many people? It's only 44 million black people in the United States. So if you're using this term of, well, it's melanoma is comparatively low with black people, damn near everything is comparatively low with black people. If you're comparing 44 million people to 263 million people, which is the amount of white people that are in this country, you see these games that get played? These are the games that get played that have fostered the level of neglect that has beset many black people, unfortunately. But we're here to change that. So let's keep it pushing. According to a 2009 report in the Journal of the Dermatology Nurses Association, while rates of skin cancer in the United States are about 35 to 45% among Caucasians, they are 5% or less for Hispanic and Asian patients, and between 1 and 2% for black patients. Why is that? Do things just happen that way? Could it be that white people just happen to get more sick than everybody else? Or could it be that that's where the attention goes to because the medical industry relates more to their brothers, their sisters, their aunts, their uncles, their fathers, and their mothers than they do to the ethnic other, the black person. It's a question I'm throwing out there. Could it be? And it's just so interesting that the rate of the rate of attentiveness of illness goes down this racial color chart all the way to the quote unquote bottom black, who just so happen to not get sick as much. All right. But two insidious factors can worsen outcomes. First, relaxed attitudes toward tanning among patients of color can amplify risk. I agree with that. Relaxed attitudes toward tanning among patients of color can amplify risk. So the relaxed attitudes in many ways tends to be a result of the lack of education and awareness efforts. So if I didn't know, then why would I have a concern? If I didn't know I could get sick, why would I have a concern to address it? Anyway, my Latina patients have no problem getting a tan, says Alicia Barber, MD, a dermatologist in Miami. Some of my lighter skinned black patients also tell me they feel prettier with a tan. I don't doubt that. There's that is an unfortunate frame of thought that is not just a quote unquote light-skinned black person's thought process. This is a statement that exists through, again, time immemorial. I mean, you have statements talking about a woman wanting a man that's tall, dark, and handsome. I mean, even in bodybuilding and bodybuilding competitions, it'll be the darkest dark person or the lightest light person, the most palest European person, and they will oil them up with that bronze. So everybody wants to be darker. Everybody across the world. So that's not anything that's unique to light-skinned people. Anyway, second, the disease is often diagnosed at more advanced stages in patients of color, which means it could be much more deadly by the time it is found. Very true, very true. And again, that right there is an example of this compound downward spiral of if I as a black person don't have the awareness that I could get a particular skin issue, then I won't do anything to prevent said skin issue from occurring. If I don't do anything for said skin issue to occur, then when it does occur, I'm less likely to go to the doctor to get it addressed. Therefore, I end up therefore it tends to grow to the point where it debilitates me and I have to go to the doctor. Now I'm at the doctor, it's not at an earlier stage where it could have been stopped or mitigated or alleviated or better addressed. Now it's at such a more advanced stage that it affects my life, my livelihood, my existence. And then it gets reported as this aggressive stage. And so it goes into the statistics that, well, black people don't get it as much, but when they get it, then they have a higher mortality rate, a lower survival rate. This is all just basic common sense. And my frustration with the medical industry, healthcare, and also these pitch competitions and these venture capitalists. Oh, I'm gonna be on you venture capitalists' neck. The tech industry, all of this. When I do these, when I'm applying for different things, I'm trying to get people interested, get these institutions interested in Melalogic and what it is that I'm doing. They pretend as if this is not an issue. They pretend, they use statements like, oh, I need to get more traction. Well, how much more traction do you need? I've got over 100 people that are interested in Melologic being built out, being created. I've got support from the Mozilla Foundation. I have people that want what it is that we're creating with Melologic. And as you can see, these articles are coming out every day that skin health awareness for Black people specifically is a huge, huge, huge concern. And yet this concern is not met with equal concern a lot of times out of these people in which they have the financial means to fix a lot of this stuff, or at least fund what it is that we're trying to do and I'm trying to do as a Black person to address this issue. So, which means that it's a chicken and egg problem here, right? At some point, somebody's going to have to make the investment in order to solve this problem instead of just letting Black people die. Anyway, this is particularly worrisome where skin cancer is concerned, says Jared Jagdeo. Never heard that name before. I have no idea what ethnicity that is. I know Jared is Hebrew. But anyway, Jared Jagdeo, MD, an associate professor of dermatology and director of the Center of Photomedicine at SUNY Downstate Medical Center, SUNY State University of New York. Skin cancers usually present very differently in the skin of patients of color, he says, especially basal cell cancer. It's not only the most common skin cancer, it's the most frequently occurring cancer, and oftentimes presents very differently in darker skin. Miami-based dermatologist Patricia Rivas, MD, says that for Latina patients, basal cell carcinomas can start out looking like a pimple that doesn't want to heal. They have no idea that, unfortunately, that is what cancer can look like in the beginning. All right. So this statement here, it says, let's see, it says skin cancers usually present very differently in the skin of patients of color. Yes. Not only in comparison to white people, but also in comparison to other quote unquote people of color. Again, this is why you can't address this monolithically. Every ethnicity that has these concerns, every distinct genetic composition of people that has a concern about their skin needs their own kind of research to be done on their skin. Because an Indian person, I'm talking an East Indian person, and a Black American person, or Aboriginal American person, or African American person, our skin might be the same hue, but it's not necessarily designed the same way. So there needs to be attention paid and respect paid to where people come from, and not just the fact that, well, we're both brown. You understand? So, in fact, let me show you something. I want to show you, let's see. I am going to show you, come on. I'm going to show you what some of this stuff looks like. Okay, so, all right, so you should be able to see this screen here, and make sure you can see that. Yeah, you can see that. All right, so what we have here is basal cell carcinoma on a person with black skin. And let's zoom in. Basal cell carcinoma is a type of skin cancer that is very rare in people. Oh, let me turn that off. Basal cell carcinoma is a type of skin cancer that is very rare in people with darker skin. But when it does occur, it should be recognized and treated early. It usually occurs on the head and neck. Basal cell carcinoma often does not spread around the body, but it can invade the surrounding tissue, damaging the skin and even the bones of the face. So this is basal cell within the context of being on a black man's nose here, right? And when we zoom in a little bit, you see the ulcer, small vessels. That's kind of how it presents on somebody with a fairly brown skin, and it would look even, slightly different on somebody with darker skin, of which we would like to be able to, as Melologic, have that art available at some point. How to spot it. Basal cell carcinoma often looks like a sore or a wound that will not heal, or a raised growth that may scab over. It is common for small blood vessels to appear on the surface of the growth. Basal cell cancer often appears darker and more pigmented rather than pink when found on more melanin-rich skin. So it can appear darker and more pigmented rather than pink. That's if it's on pale skin or white skin, it will present as more pink. But on dark skin, it will present as more darker and also more pigmented. So that's basal cell carcinoma. Let's see. And all right, so let's keep this thing pushing here. Put that down. All right, Mind the Gap, a handbook of clinical signs in black and brown skin. Oh, by the way, that artwork is that's custom artwork that we have with Melologic that you'll be able to get at melologic.com, so you can learn more about basal cell carcinoma and other forms of skin issues that affect you and the people in which that you love. Anybody with black skin, you'll be able to access this artwork along with medical advice at melologic.com. Just go to melologic.com. You can add your email address. You'll be notified when we roll out our new products. So Mind the Gap, a handbook of clinical signs in black and brown skin by McWende M. Tomini P. Turner M. First edition. So this is the Mind the Gap handbook that has been receiving some press since last summer. I don't think that the book is actually available like that right now, but it's a work in progress. First of all, I think that it's a great thing that this doctor is doing this out of the UK. However, I do have a bit of a concern, and that is the lack of focus. Because this says a handbook of clinical signs in black and brown skin. And I have an issue with this black and brown lumping together as if we're the same people, and we're not, hence the and. I think that it's a noble thing to always want to take care of everybody in the world. It's a noble thing, but I think that a lot of times we need to be, as black people, more focused on our own issues. Now, I understand why we tend to say black and brown. A lot of times we say black and brown, to be quite frank, is because we want to sound, as black people, I can't really talk to you too much about brown people per se, but as black people, a lot of times we don't have confidence in ourselves that we can stand on our own 2 feet and take care of our issues. A lot of times we unfortunately we look to other people to add to our numbers, to make it seem like the issue is really big. And I am of the persuasion that an issue is an issue, whether it's one person saying it or 1,000. An issue is still an issue, and I'm trying to think of how do I say this. we don't necessarily need somebody else to say that our situation is bad for our situation to be bad. We don't need other people's validation, is what I'm trying to say. And it can, we have to be able to, again, be strong enough and be clear enough and be direct enough to speak specifically about our own issues, because our own issues are that they're our own issues. Our skin is not the same as a brown person's skin. So if you want to go and also catalog brown people's skin and all of that, that's fine. Knock yourself out. But what I'm saying is that you don't have to. You don't have to, particularly if you're not a brown person yourself, because something that has to do with the health of a particular ethnic group is best. I'm saying best, and this article is going to prove what I'm saying. But something that has to do with medicine for a particular ethnic group is best solved and served by that specific ethnic group, because it's that ethnic group that has the level of empathy to be able to see themselves in the patients in which that they're serving. It's just human nature. Now, could we use the assistance and help from other people? Absolutely. Can somebody that's from one particular ethnic group help a bunch of other people from other ethnic groups? Absolutely. I'm not saying that can't happen. But what I am saying is that in the case of something like skin, there's a level of nuance that needs to be paid attention to, and you can't just one size fits all it. So, all right, anyway. The information disparity is part of what spurred UK-based medical student Malone McWonday to team up with two staff members at St. George's, University of London, to create their own handbook filled with images of clinical conditions in skin of color. See, this needs to say black skin, and it said it in the title, so it said black and brown. It did, but these writers, a lot of times, they intermix these terms of black, brown, skin of color. Well, where's yellow or Asian or that's skin of color. So again, you got to watch the words and make sure that people stay on target, because they'll say one thing and give you something completely different and say, what? I told you it was going to be this, and you assumed that it was going to be something for you, and it wasn't. It's something for other people. And we're the ones, as black people, we're the ones raising this ruckus. It's not brown people that's talking about this like that. At least if it is, let me know, and I'll stand corrected. But I know I started talking about this in the fall of 2016, and all throughout 2017 to the point of myself and another dermatologist having research published by the American Medical Association about this very issue about racial disparity in dermatology and machine learning. So this is really a black issue. It's a worldwide issue, but it's black people that's talking. That is the driving voice and gas behind this problem. So we should eat of the first fruits of the solution. All right. So let's see. We need to start with medical schools and healthcare institutions, McWonday says. The very first step is these institutions taking accountability for the lack of diversity in curriculum, which is part of the reason people are literally dying. After that, it's very important to put changes in place and watch to see if they're yielding any results. Yes, I agree. So the very first step is these institutions taking accountability for the lack of diversity in curriculum. And now here's the thing. Unfortunately, many of these institutions won't take the accountability, but it doesn't mean that we should not attempt to hold these institutions accountable, because they affect our day-to-day lives. So we should hold these institutions accountable. But we also have to understand is that they're not going to give their power up without a fight. These venture capitalists who take money, by the way, from these universities through endowments, through families that are connected to the universities, and these money pools that are provided by these schools that many of these venture capitalists they represent the financial interests of many of these universities. And so that's a lot of times why these venture capitalists are very hesitant in investing in black people, because they don't think that they're going to get, one, a return on their investment, and two, many of them are racially motivated to make sure that black people are always at most one step behind them. So it's very racialized. It is very racist, and it's many of these venture capitalists in these universities and the research that they do, and even our federal government, in many ways, pretend that, and our local governments and our state governments, they pretend to not allocate money toward black causes because they think that it's not a large enough base in order to financially support their investment in return. That's the mathematical excuse that they use to cement in their hundreds of years of racism. So, but they turn around and say now, oh, no, I'm not racist. No. See, it's just a math thing. It's just not enough for you people. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. Because at some point, you're going to have to make investments. That's what an investment is. And let me also say this. Research is purely, quite frankly, research has no immediate economic return on its investment. Research dollars, let me say this again. Research dollars have no immediate economical return on investment. So for an institution to say that they do not have research dollars available to put into a black research study, that's just bullshit. They just don't want to do it. They don't want to do it because you can't have too many healthy black people walking around. You just can't, because these institutions, this regime that we're under, unfortunately, they view too many autonomous people as a threat. Honestly, black or white, they view too many autonomous people as a threat. Unfortunately, it's just what it is. But the day is coming. The day is coming where that behavior will no longer be tolerated, and it's going to actually be a detriment to these organizations. So it's best that whoever can make the right decisions, start making the right decisions. Invest in Melalogic. Let's see. The very first step is these institutions take accountability for the lack of diversity in curriculum, which is part of the reason people are literally dying. After that, it's very important to put changes in place and watch to see if they're yielding any results. Skin cancers usually present very differently in the skin of patients of color. There go that patients of color term. Stateside, tech startups and skincare brands are working hard to close the information gap. Yes, like Melalogic. The digital platform Hued has partnered with Vaseline to connect patients with local health care providers of color. And Vaseline has also sponsored a training module on diverse skincare for clinician site Medscape. So let's see what Hued is. I pulled it up, and this is the website here. Oh, you know what? Okay, yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm back on. All right. Yeah, you see me. All right, cool. So yeah, this is the website Hued here. Diversifying the patient-physician experience. All right, we got, it looks like a brother here from, I don't know where he's from, connecting patients to I don't know if he's from the States, I don't know if he's from the islands, I don't know where he's from Africa, not sure, or Europe. Diversifying the patient-physician experience, connecting patients to the incredible care that they deserve. I agree. Find culturally competent providers for free. Look, just say black people. Just say black people. Just stop playing around. Here's the thing. Should you have to say black people? No, but we're not at that place yet. I look forward to the day where white is not the default. I look forward to the day where for black people, black is the default. I look forward to that. But we're not at that day right now. And so I again tend to have. I always wonder when it's clearly not stated that something is for black people, what the motivation behind that level of censorship is. Why are they editing themselves like that? What are you afraid of? Just say black. It's clear the guy's black on here. Just say black. We play too much, unfortunately, because when everything goes down, nobody says hue, nobody says person of color. They don't say when somebody's getting robbed or being looked up by the federales or something. Nobody says, hey, yeah, it was a person of color. Nobody says that. They say, hey, it was the black person right there. You see? So just be direct. This is not the early 2000s, the mid 2000s, and the early 2010s. People playing around talking about person of color. Just say black, okay? Because again, person of color could mean anything. All right. Okay, what else we got? What are the major barriers for patients of color seeking care? Fear, distrust, comfortability, access. I agree. Increasing access to quality care is very important. We must acknowledge the link between race and poor health to meet our nation's daunting health equity challenge. There you go, race. So you say race, but which race are you talking about? Because not all races are on the same footing when it comes to the healthcare industry. So just be specific. All right, so Black and Latinx Americans experience 30 to 40% poorer health outcomes than white Americans every year. Now, I'm sure you're saying, there you go, you say race, Black and Latinx. Let me say this. You can have Latinx people that are black. Because Latinx essentially means Spanish speaking. That's basically what that means. So you have black Spanish people, black Spanish speaking people. So again, this is the whole black and brown kind of thing. Anyway, and we have for the majority of people that are Latinx, because again, you have Latinx people that are black, and you have black people that are Latinx. So it's not necessarily two distinct groups. But a majority of those who identify as Latinx, they would be essentially South and Central American, primarily mestizos or some other kind of mix of Spanish and ancient American. Let's see. Or a form of Indigenous American or Mongolian American or Native American. It all depends. Let's see. Infant mortality rates over 2 times higher for blacks. See, now you get it. Now you're getting into it. Stop it. Come on. Black children have a 500% higher death rate from asthma compared with white children. There goes a comparison. And I think that number 500 is pretty crazy. So, in these instances, it makes sense to use the comparison. But here's my thing. What if the asthma rate was less than white people? Does that mean that you shouldn't care? Does it mean you shouldn't care? You see, it's you don't always have to compare things to white people for it to be a problem. And that's my issue with a lot of the comparative analytics when it comes to race, because that psychologically always puts white people as the standard. White people are not the standard. We just view white people that way. So we almost self-enforce our own racism and our own racial constructs of pedestalizing white people. Anyway, we have to be cognizant of this kind of thing. Middle-class whites live 10 years longer than middle-class blacks. Yes. Okay. Blacks have higher rates of diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease than other groups. Yes. So man, look at this. This whole Latinx thing kind of faded, huh? After the first one. This is my point. Why even say black and brown? Why say black and Latinx? It's not Latinx people, it's not brown people that are making these websites and pushing this initiative. It's black people that's doing it. But a lot of times, I'll say it again, we don't believe enough in ourselves. So we want to like Brody up with a whole bunch of other people to be like, hey, white man, it's me and all my non-white friends coming to take what's, or not even take, coming to ass, please. You know, we have to, I think we have to have more confidence in ourselves. But anyway, we'll, you know, it is what it is. You understand what I'm saying? Mission, change patient care outcomes for 50,000 black and Latinos by 2025. Again, they just throw Latinos in there because it's a, you know, it's a non-white demographic. But make no mistake, this whole purpose is to try to help black people improve their health outcomes. Oh boy. Vision. We'll connect you with resources to find the best quality of care by doctors that look like you. And let me also say this. Many Latinos identify as white. Let me say it again. Many Latinos identify as Caucasian. They identify as white. So they'll feel fine going to a white doctor. They good. So it's you know, it's a bit of playing both sides here. Let's see, our approach to care. Whether you need a routine checkup or a specialty procedure, you want the best care you can find. I agree. Check-ins to help you stay on top of your health. Check-ins to help you stay on top of your health. Check-ins to stay on top of your health. Okay, so clearly this is some filler text. They're still working on the website, which I understand because we're still working on melologic.com. So I get it. I understand. Which brings me to my point how something like Hue can be partnered with Vaseline. They're clearly still working on this website, but Melologic, you know, we're still looking for more partners. So, you know, a lot of this stuff is like who you know and everything. It's not necessarily about your great idea, because believe me, Melologic is a fantastic concept. But you know, we need more key partners. So in order for us to really crack this nut and improve the health outcomes for black people, because let me say something, Hue can't do it by themselves. Melologic, we can't do this by ourselves, right? We have to work together in order to achieve these certain kinds of statistics, in order to move the needle for higher survival rates, lower mortality rates when it comes to black people. And when you raise the survival rate, when you lower the mortality rate for black people, you're lowering the mortality rate for everybody, because black people, that number is included with everybody, right? You get what I'm saying? When you add up and say, okay, well, what's the mortality rate in general for this specific issue? You address black people, everybody benefits. So, you know, it's okay to just focus on black people. For eons, we focused just on white people. It's okay to focus on your own group. It's okay. Let's see. All right, so this is huge. So let's keep it going back to this article. All right, so a new self-check microsite called Self-Exam Beautifully, created by Neutrogena and the American Society for Dermatologic Surgery, pinpoints areas where melanoma is more likely to appear in skin of color, like the palms of the hands and the soles of the feet. All right, so, you know, this Self-Exam Beautifully website, I don't even feel like going into it. I mean, I'll show you it. This is the website right here by Neutrogena. Full disclosure, I applied to get some kind of grant funding from Johnson & Johnson and Neutrogena. Melologic did not get the grant funding, but I find it funny that they said that Melologic needed more traction, and yet they roll out a half-baked, half-hearted version of what it is that we're working on with Melologic. So, you know, did were they fishing for ideas when I applied? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure, but I do have questions about that. Because if you look at this website here, see, this is what a lot of these companies do. Most of these companies are owned by white people. Make no mistake about it. But because of the day and age that we're in, where a lot of black people have a voice, what a lot of these companies do is they take stock photos of black people and they hire black actors, and then they paint their ads, their marketing, their promotions, their websites, their content with black people and non-white people, but specifically they'll do black people. A lot of times what they'll do is they'll get somebody that is ethnically ambiguous. You see it a lot in commercials. And the reason why they do that is because they want white people to look at the person and say, oh, that person is like me. And then they want a black person to look at that person and say, oh, that person looks like me. So it's smart on the business side. Like you can understand why they do that on a business investment side, but it's very on an actual like reality side, it's very disingenuous. So for example, this website here, as you can see, is using I guess this is a black person right here. Check your scalp. Then it's somebody with freckles. Look at your nose, lips, cheeks, and ears with a mirror. Shout out to that. And then, okay, so I guess this person is black right here. Look at your upper back. You'll need 2 mirrors. And then, boom, a white person right here. Focus on your neck, chest, and torso with 2 mirrors. This right here seems like a good job, a good effort, right? And then, we move further here. And this is supposed to be for skin checks. And they're using people of all different colors. But see, like, you can have one ethnic group with a variety of different colors within that ethnic group. So everybody is not represented here. This is why you have to, it's okay. Health is not politically correct. Addressing people's health issues is not politically correct. But these companies want to be politically correct. So they want to present you with this rainbow coalition of all these different ethnicities holding hands. And yeah, you check your skin and you check your skin. But the thing is that we as different groups of people have different issues. We have different problems. Instead of trying to be globalist about it and doing something for everybody, why don't you, Neutrogena and Johnson & Johnson, focus on the specific people who are raising the concerns and stop trying to just do stuff to appease everybody. You don't have to do that. But it takes courage and it takes real empathy in order for you to actually do that. Which, gotta be honest, I don't know if you really, if you got motivated. But anyway, hopefully some people are who are listening to this. And if you are, support Melalogic. Melalogic.com. All right, so they got these self-check heads up. Honestly, we're working on that with Melalogic. That's why I'm like, I don't know if they stole my idea. I'm not really sure. All right, ABCDEs and melanoma. We're working on that. And this is what I wanted to show you here. So, like, they show black people in this, on this website here, where they allude to black people, even though they don't actually say black. Well, yeah, they don't. It says black growth here, but they're not referring to black people. Okay, right here they do. 1% to 2% of all cancers in black people. So they black, Asian, Latinx. Again, black people are a plethora of different ethnic groups, right? We're not necessarily just a color. So let's see. And then when we look at their little guide here that you can download and we scroll down, okay, we got like black hands and white hands and, yellow hands and stuff. But we go down here to the ABCDEs of melanoma. And what do we have here? White skin that they're showing. So they're trying to help black people here. Look, they got a black person right here. Self-exam preparation tips, which is nothing more than stock photos, more than likely. But then when it comes to actually checking your skin, white people. Ain't that a bitch? Now let me show you something. I'm gonna show you something else. So, look here. So we at Dermatology have a chart. Could it be melanoma? What do you see? A black person, right? We got a black person here, black woman here, and we go over the A, B, C, D, E's of melanoma. Well, let's read it. Though melanoma is very rare in people with darker skin, when it does occur, it is often diagnosed too late to cure. It is best to treat melanoma in its earliest stages. The ABCDEs of melanoma. Let's see, the ABCDEs. Benign moles should be small and even in shape, and they should not change drastically over time. The ABCDEs of skin cancer can help you determine whether or not your mole needs further attention from your doctor. Yeah, look at this. This mole shows most of the ABCDEs of skin cancer. It is asymmetric, has irregular borders, has more than 3 colors, and is large compared to most benign moles. So look at this. Asymmetry, borders, color, diameter, and evolution. Right? This is how it would look, how it would present on somebody with brown skin or dark skin. And when I say brown, I'm not referring to East Indian. I'm referring to a black person. You know what I'm saying? Asymmetry. Both halves of the mole do not match. Borders. The mole has very uneven or blurry borders. Color. The mole has 3 or more colors. Diameter. The diameter of the mole is larger than a number 2 pencil eraser, 6 millimeters. And evolution. The mole changes considerably over time in size, color, shape, or texture. Now, again, this is medical art that we created to reflect black people at melologic.com, right? Again, you can add your email address and be notified when we roll this out. But you see that's what we did. And look, Melologic is just me. Really, it's myself and it's like 4 other people. Just us. I don't even do this full time. I'm trying to get funding for this, but I paid for this out of my own pocket to get this created. And then look at this. Neutrogena, who's owned by Johnson & Johnson, who boasts of itself as the world's largest healthcare provider. These people, even like these people who know that there's an issue with black skin health awareness, comes out with this ABCDEs of melanoma with white skin. This is what they do, and I'm gonna tell you why they did this. The reason why they did it like this is because they needed images of melanoma, and for the most part, the only images that are readily available of melanoma, like, are white images. So look at this. This is from the International Skin Imaging Collaboration. The ISIC, or the International Skin Imaging Collaboration, is a non-profit. Really, it is a project that is shared throughout the dermatology profession, that utilizes, that basically takes photos of skin cancers and other forms of skin issues, and then they share it into this one repository. Think about it as a library of skin cancer. That's what this is. The problem is that this library, they receive their donations from the population groups located in Western Europe, the United States, and Australia. What does that mean? That means that this library is a library of white images, of white skin. Look at all this. 99, basically almost 100% of these photos are white, of white patients. Probably not 100%, but damn close. And this is what is available for use for free for anybody in the world to reference. So what happens is that you have many tech startups, many scientists, many doctors that when they need images of melanomas for whatever they're doing for research purposes, they come here. And so I'm not saying that 100% that Neutrogena came here to get the photos, but just understand, like, this is reflective of what's pretty much available throughout the world. It's like a lot of the photos that have to do with melanomas are for white people. So this goes to show you that Neutrogena cared so much about black people that they didn't take the extra step to actually find what melanomas look like in black people. They didn't do it. And then they roll out a website trying to pretend that they actually care about black people, when it's all marketing. That's all it is. They're just trying to sell their products to black people. And it sickens me, because it's like, do your thing, sell your stuff. I got no issue with it. But at least listen to what black people are asking for. And stop trying to play both sides. Stop trying to say that you actually want to invest in black companies, you want to invest in black people, you actually care about the health outcomes of black people, but then you turn around and put your money into stuff like this and then do this. And then say, here, black people, take that. Like we're this stupid. Anyway, that one's for you, Johnson & Johnson and Neutrogena. As they say, do better. Let's see. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 13.4% of Americans identify as black or African American, and 18.5% as Hispanic or Latino. But just over 3% of dermatologists are black, and less than 5% are Hispanic. Until medical schools and mentorship programs succeed in efforts to yield a more diverse pool of derms to choose from, as recently as 2020, just 65 of the 796 applicants for dermatology residencies were black or African American, and only 39 were Hispanic, Latino, or of Spanish origin. There are a few things people of color can do to improve their own outcomes. Okay, before I get into this, let me explain something, all right? Because they didn't get it. They're saying this: until medical schools and mentorship programs succeed in efforts to yield a more diverse pool of derms to choose from, there are a few things people of color can do to improve their own outcomes. Okay, let me up further. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 13.4% of Americans identify as black or African American, and 18.5% as Hispanic or Latino. But just over 3% of dermatologists are black, and less than 5% are Hispanic. Okay, let me say this. You're never going to have racial parity. It's not about racial parity. Just because there's 13.4% of black Americans does not necessarily mean there needs to be 13.4% black dermatologists. That's ridiculous. The world doesn't work that way. Although that tends to be what the angle, a lot of times people use that as an angle, which I get it. It's not necessarily about whether or not the number is reflective per se, like exactly, but that there is sufficient resources available. Because honestly, what would it matter if they were, if the dermatologists were 13.4% black or 50% black? What would it matter? What would it matter if they, as long as the resources were available, and dermatology was being performed, where people were being able to get the health outcomes that they were aiming for, improve the health outcomes, then the racial parity part does not necessarily particularly matter. But let me also say that you got to have more than 3% black people. You got to have more than that. I mean, it's virtual. I mean, it's that's people who report, because you can have people who don't report. It all depends on like the polls. It could be more black people, but let me also say this: it is a dearth of black people. Let me also say this, that the reason why the medical schools and the mentorship programs do not have that many black dermatologists, and I'm not even mentioning Hispanic, because that number is more than black people. And I already said the whole black and brown thing. The reason why the numbers are so low is because, one, the number of dermatologists per 100,000 people or per 1,000 people in the United States is low, period. In fact, the number of doctors that exist within the United States in comparison to the number of people in the United States is very low. Like per 1,000 people, per 100,000 people, it's like there's a very low amount of doctors, period. All doctors, no matter the color of doctor, no matter the profession, it's a low amount of doctors that exist within the United States. And here is why. It's because of the Balanced Budget Act of 1997. The Balanced Budget Act of 1997 was an act of Congress that put austerity measures onto the different federal agencies, such as the Center for Medicaid Services, Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services, CMS, and also Health and Human Services, HHS. And how that connects to doctors is that many hospitals receive federal funding from the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services, or CMS, and they receive funding in order to have fellowship programs for doctors, be it so that doctors can then go in and doctors can be on rotation and have their they become I forget what the term is called, but they're like attendings or something along those lines. I can't remember the term, but you know what I'm saying. You have doctors in training, they go and they train at hospitals. Well, in order to fund those doctors, a lot of that money prior to 1997 was coming from the federal government. In fact, today a lot of that money still comes from the federal government, but the money got cut. The money got cut in 1997, so there ended up being a cap on dermatology, along with pretty much every other medical profession, to the point where it never kept up with the amount of doctors that are being enrolled into these programs and graduating from these programs. Never kept up to the rising population in the United States, because we have more people in the United States now in 2021 than we did in 1997, but we don't have more doctors like keeping up as far as the ratio goes. I hope that makes sense. That's a real big problem right there. So this issue is never going to be honestly addressed until the issue of representation for dermatologists it's never going to be addressed until the issue of budgeting gets addressed from the United States government. So anyway, let's see. First and foremost, schedule an annual skin check with your dermatologist. Okay, so this is the things in which that you can do to empower yourself to be your own health advocate. First and foremost, schedule an annual skin check with your dermatologist and make sure you are scanned for skin cancer, says Karen Kaga, MD, dermatologist and Harvard-trained cosmetic fellow. Also, reapplying SPF 30 or higher every 2 hours is a must for all my patients, no matter their skin color. I agree. The need for greater diversity in dermatology in all areas of skincare is urgent. For her part, Aaliyah Smith has 2 practitioners of color, both black women, to thank for her skin cancer survival story. Shout out to black women, man. Shout out to black women that go into this field and care for their people. It's a beautiful thing. As they say, you love to see it. First, her physician assistant friend, who originally alerted her to the quarter-sized mole several years later, when Smith hit it with her fingernail and a piece of it flaked off and bled, she immediately saw help. Second, her doctor. After looking through the photos of every Dallas-Fort Worth area dermatologist on ZocDoc, Smith found Diane Davis, MD, a cosmetic dermatologist at North Dallas Dermatology Associates. Davis promptly biopsied Smith's malignant melanoma. Okay, so what biopsy means is that they take a sample. And they take a sample of the melanoma, and sometimes they'll just take the whole mole. And they feel like, oh, better safe than sorry, so they take it in case it is precancerous. And so, and then there's an argument as to whether or not that should occur. And the reason why that is because you remove a mole during the biopsy process, and the mole comes out to be negative, like it's not cancerous or not precancerous, then what you've done is you've created morbidity in a person that you didn't need to. They have a lifelong scar now that you didn't need to do that. And on top of that, you might even trigger some other kind of illness within the person, because no surgery is 100% immune from infection. So there's a risk with taking it out or risk leaving it. So that's one of the debates of excising moles during the biopsy process. I just wanted, a cosmetic dermatologist at North Dallas Dermatology Associates. Davis promptly biopsied Smith's melanoma. I just wanted someone who looks like me, Smith explains. Someone I can feel comfortable disclosing my tanning habits, and someone who would understand where I'm coming from without any judgment. Ding, 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 ding. That's the key. Major key. Major key. Aha. Major key. What she just said is a major key. And I don't know why people don't listen. This woman just said she has a concern about her life. Her life. And she said, look, I'll go through all of the doctors on ZocDoc just to find somebody who looks like me. Because we're talking about my skin. This is not something that can be abstracted away like something internal, right? Like your teeth, your organs. This is just skin, okay? This is something that it's the largest organ. It is an organ. It's the largest organ that exists on your body, and something that's topical, is viewable. You can see it with the eye. So it's very important to be able to see a doctor that looks like you, because it's seeing a reflection of yourself. And it's in both directions, because the doctor sees a reflection of themselves in that person. I mean, this is what I'm saying about healthcare is not politically correct. So in order to solve these problems, we have to get beyond the politicization of this stuff and actually roll up our sleeves and solve it. And we know what to do. Support Melalogic. All right, so look at this. Smith's cancerous mole. Smith's thigh after the mole was removed. Look at that. Now, many white people can't relate to this look right here. But it's a lot of black people that can relate to this look right here, this mole right here. I got a couple of these on me right now that look like this. You know, this look like an ordinary mole on a black person. So but there are things in which that you can look for. Again, we went through the A, B, C, D, E's of melanoma, but look at this versus what Neutrogena is telling you to look for. Now you can sort of kind of say, well, it's sort of kind of maybe that, maybe, but maybe not. Because like I said, I got moles like this on me. A lot of black people have moles like this on them, but white people don't have moles on them like this. Not like that. So, you know, there needs to be way more representation specifically around what this stuff looks like on black people. Not necessarily this amorphous skin of color. Because this is not what it would look like on a lighter skinned Asian person. But that's a skin of color. Smith's life may have been saved, but others haven't been as fortunate. That's correct, because some of you may know, for those that don't, the reason why I care so much about this stuff is because I lost a loved one to melanoma. I lost my wife. My wife passed away from skin cancer, just like this lady almost passed away. My wife actually died from melanoma. She was twisting her locks. And they say black people can't get skin cancer, but that's a lie. And this racial bias leads to a worldwide problem. Let's see. Skin conditions such as melanoma are being diagnosed too late, McWundy says. It boils down to the way we are as humans. When we don't understand something, we often revert back to the original way we learned about it. If the first way we learned about skin cancer involved visuals on white skin only, our natural bias is to that one perspective, and that bias can be the difference between life and death. Let's take it back to quote unquote well-intentioned Neutrogena with all these different colors here to make it seem like it's black and woke and blackly black and all this stuff, and we care about everybody, but then when they show melanoma, what do they show? They show pale skin. Ain't that a bitch? But then they got the nerve to show a black person right here. You know, they think they're slick. Try again. Try again. Support Dermatology. Stuff really grinds my gears, man. You know, and I really don't have the patience to be all political and ho-hum about it. You know, I'm in people's ass these days. I'm 40 years old. I ain't got time for this stuff. Come back next year. You got some nerve. You know how many times I done heard that? So anyway, everybody, look, I want to thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Again, this is Avery. And I really want you to check out Dermatology. Dermatology is an app that gives black people a single source of skin health information from trusted professionals who look like them. Participating users will be able to donate to the Black Skin Health AI dataset, which will provide them with the ability to submit a photo of any skin issue they may have and receive instantaneous feedback as to what it could be and suggestions on how they should treat it. This new public dataset will provide AI-fueled dermatology research and pre-diagnoses. Essentially, Dermatology is an online resource that combines medical art, advice, and AI to give black people, to empower black people to be our own health advocates. Take care of your skin, take care of yourself, Dermatology. So, yeah, thanks for listening. I'm glad it's over. I'm about to go roller skating. I want to enjoy the rest of the evening. I hope you all take care. Hit me up in the DMs. Look me up at well, you can reach out to me at GetMelologic on Instagram. You can also email me at avery@melologic.com. So check me out there. You want to just kind of check me out as a person, you can look me up at averygoodidea.com. That's averygoodidea.com. You can also look me up on Instagram at averygoodidea. I'm over there. Check me out. You can see some of my roller skating videos and stuff, see me cook different things. And yeah, so thanks for listening, y'all. Till next time.